magic in the air. בכל הגוף בוער. Feel the magic in the air.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Planet Soccer Show podcast, wherever you're listening, whether it's video or on an audio streaming service. We're very happy to have back with us Nick Watanabe. Is that correct? Am I saying
That's
that right?
correct. Yep.
Woo! Let's go, baby. Let's go. I'm, of course, Reed, back with Dylan. Dylan with a new background today. He's back up out of his basement and into the normal levels of his home. So, Dylan, Nick, how we doing today, guys?
Doing
Good. Out of the dungeon. So
Out of the dungeon.
got good lighting. You can actually see me.
Yeah. We've
Sorry,
today.
30-second disappearance.
You're good. Yeah, I mean, I disappeared for like 40 minutes on the last one we did. So
We kept it rolling. Audio people
yeah.
would have had no idea.
yeah, that's true. Today we're talking about Group E of the World Cup coming up later this month, of course, in Qatar. Group E, some might call it the Group of Death. It's got, if there even is one in this World Cup, it's got Germany, Spain, Japan, and Costa Rica. We've brought Nick on today because he is our resident Japanese national team expert. Very excited to get his insight. As you guys probably know, Dylan and I just kind of spitball a lot of these teams that we don't know a lot about. We'll talk a lot about the Frances of the world, the Netherlands of the world, but we're excited to get more insight into Japan and possibly even Costa Rica. I have faith in Nick to bring us some in-depth analysis on all four teams. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Dylan, go ahead and lead us off into this group. Where do we want to start?
Yeah, I think the most obvious place to start is kind of at the top. It's
Japan, yeah.
We'll get there before the last team. We'll go with that. We'll get there before the last team. No, for me, I think the obvious place to start is who's going to win the group. I think for most people, sorry to Japan at this point, but I think it is a fairly consensus foregone conclusion that we will see Spain or Germany win the group. So I think that's kind of where I would want to start. For me, it's Spain. When I look at Spain, it is a weird Spain. It's a Spain in transition, but it's almost like looking at Alabama football for college football fans, that their transition years are still disgustingly good. We are seeing kind of a changing of the guards with the Spanish national team, but the influx of talent that they have at their disposal, whether it's Pedri or Rodri, Laporte in the back line, it is a very, very solid team to be called a team in transition. So I'm kind of excited to see this new wave of Spain on the world stage and see what those younger guys are able to do.
Yeah, Nick, what have you got on Spain before I kind of give my thoughts?
I actually think Spain's weakness is going to be in their attack, curiously enough. I just think that striker-wise, they're lacking. They're either going to a 30-year-old or a 20-year-old, if you look at their recent call-ups. It's basically, we have no experience, or these guys we've seen before who are I don't really think they can do it. I hate to pick on them, but, Morata, right? I mean, he's been everywhere. He plays for the football terrorists now in Atletico Madrid, which means he gets maybe in a Champions League match, you'll see the ball maybe twice during the match on the offensive side. The defensive side, of course, right? And they're in the box defending just like the rest of them. But, I mean, I think that's going to be Spain's weakness is the attack. Curious news is I saw that Sergio Ramos wants the surprise inclusion.
Oh, really?
Yes. So that was in the news. And then, I think they have this very good midfield, right? So that's really, I think, going to be the crux of what happens with Spain, how well they do, and who they field. The fact that Koke is still – not Koke. The fact that – Koke's done very well for them, but the fact that Busquets is still sort of in this conversation, I think is a dangerous thing for Spain. I don't think he's what they need in terms of a midfield, right?
Yeah, all you have to do is look at Barcelona's fans' opinions on Sergio Busquets these days to know that he probably shouldn't be included in that national team squad.
And then that brings up the interesting thing. So if you pull out Busquets, you basically have Koke and Marcos Llorente, right, who are 30 and 27 respectively. And then after that, it's almost teenagers again.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it is.
This is that thing, right? Is that Spain is has two dimensions. They either have these very young, exciting players, or they have these older, stalwart, veterans. And can that combine together to make Spain a very strong team? And I think that's the question. I honestly don't think they're the ones to win the group. That's my honest opinion.
How many games has Ferran Torres gotten for Barcelona this year? I feel like I haven't seen his name very much, but he's obviously a very talented young winger. But I don't know how much game time he's gotten for Barcelona this year, honestly.
Yeah, I think for me, like when we talk about the goal scoring, which I definitely think could be a large question mark, I do have confidence in the younger guys in the midfield and on the wings. Like they're pretty talented on the wings too. So they don't have that like true goal scoring presence at striker, but I mean Fati or Asensio or Torres, like they have guys that can play out wide and can play out wide with some success. So I wouldn't be completely surprised to see them play well in this group, at least well enough to qualify for the knockout. There are definitely question marks. I don't see this being a Spain team that can make a deep run, but it doesn't seem like they're in such dire straits that we're worried about like missing out on a knockout stage this year again for them.
Yeah, I think Spain's also one of those teams that, at least with my limited kind of casual watching of the World Cup in years past, obviously they've been very talented, but I feel like the Spanish system for the national team is always very cohesive and they're always organized and they know what they're doing, essentially, from top to bottom. So any final thoughts on Spain from you guys?
I just looked up those Ferran Torres stats. He's played the full 90. Is this once? Yeah, once.
Yeah.
He also scored a bit in Champions League, though, I feel like. I've seen two or three goals from him in Champions League. So even if he's not getting, like, full time, he is.
Those were useful.
Right. Yeah. But even more to the point, almost like, hey,
yeah,
if you're scoring on that team right now and your name isn't Lewandowski, like, hey, props to you. You're doing something that other guys on that team can't. So on a team with goal scoring questions, maybe Barcelona had some of those questions. Maybe he can be that guy for Spain that is able to step up and score some goals. I mean, I do think Nick, you're right though. I do think the biggest question is going to be, where do those goals come from game in and game out? There are guys that have potential to score on occasion, but not necessarily guys that can compete with the top goal scorers in the tournament.
Yeah, his productivity this year is it's abysmal actually in La Liga. That's 2 goals in 12 or 11 appearances. He's pretty much only playing full match once, and then 3 other matches he played more than a half. So I can't really say, he's doing terrible, but also his 2 goals came, one that lost to Madrid, and the second one was that 4-0 win against Athletic Bilbao. So in that case, he sort of scored, I hate to say it, but 2 meaningless goals in some.
Right.
And then I think what we're seeing from him is, right, he scored 3 goals in Champions League, but they were all against Victoria.
Pleasant.
Oh, we get to say it one more time, Reed. Victoria
Pleasant.
I have no idea how to actually say it, but it is my favorite Champions League name to pronounce, and I am so glad we got to bring it back one more time.
Thanks for participating, Victoria. We'll see y'all in a decade.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. So let's go ahead and move on to Germany then, I guess. And I don't even know if it's notable at this point. It was something that kind of took me by a little bit of surprise. Toni Kroos announcing that he is not going to be participating in this World Cup. I don't know how much participation he's had recently with that German national team. However, they're not going to miss him whatsoever. Let's be real. That midfield, talk about another stacked midfield. That's kind of where it starts with Germany in my mind, with Jamal Musiala and Joshua Kimmich. Dylan, Nick, what do y'all think about this German national team? The favorites, probably. I think they're my favorites to win this group.
They're definitely, for me, I always got to bring it back to the degenerate betting angle. They're the better value here. I don't see a world where Spain or Germany don't win the group. One of those two, I think, does win the group. And when you can get Germany at plus odds, and Spain, I think it's like minus 185 or something like that. Last I saw, like, if I'm going to bet on this group, and there's a good chance I would, I think my bet would lean Germany. Not that I necessarily think they are the favorite, but they're definitely the betting value in this group for me.
I agree with that. I mean, if you just look at it, right, the fact that, Neuer is considered a almost outside choice for goalkeeper, already tells you, like, oh, this is a stacked team. I don't know if you saw the statistic about save percentages in Champions League this year.
I did not know.
Manuel Neuer has 100% save rate.
Wow.
He has saved every single shot he faced.
How many shots has he had to face, though, to be fair? And how many of those are quality shots?
I mean,
it's still impressive, don't get me wrong, but we also have to kind of keep in mind who he's playing for, and
it was it wasn't a bad group.
But neither Inter nor Barcelona are scoring machines at this point. It's not like he did that in a group against Napoli or something, who just scores
You're forgetting
at will.
one team.
Pleasant.
Appreciate that. One more time.
Yeah.
But regardless, it is not trying to discount it. It is an impressive stat, but he's going to be facing a lot more high quality chances, I would think, against a Spain team like we're likely to see Spain field. So I don't know. I try to take it with a grain of salt. I feel like I'm talking myself out of Germany here, and I don't really know why, because there are so many question marks with Spain. I think I may have just seen Spain more recently and more frequently in Nations League and just have watched them more. But there's plenty to like about Germany right now, to be sure. That midfield is, like you said, Reed, that's kind of where it all starts for them.
A lot of the matchup between these two teams is a Barcelona versus Bayern matchup. So you look at, especially, Germany, especially. You've got obviously Rudiger, who's with Madrid, and then a couple Dortmund players thrown in here and there, but more or less it's Bayern Munich and then Kai Havertz at Chelsea. So you've got experience with Germany. You've also got the Musialas of the world, the teenagers who are coming up, just like Spain has. And then, like Nick mentioned, the embarrassment of riches at goalkeeper, like we'll talk about with Brazil here in a few groups. Just a really talented team. And I think, I don't know, is Mueller going to be at this World Cup? Is this his last go around?
I'm sure it's his last go around.
I think he's hurt right now. Expected to return November 7th, so here in a few days. So he'll probably be all right for the World Cup. Nice to have that grandpa presence in the squad, I guess.
For me, I kind of have, in a way, some of the same questions about Germany. Like, I'll play devil's advocate here. If Timo Werner was still at Chelsea, not doing anything, would we feel that much more confident about the striking presence in Germany as compared to Spain? Because he's going to be the striker for Germany at this World Cup, I would think. So, are we really that confident in Werner? He's had a little bit of a revitalization since leaving Chelsea, but I still don't think he's by any means like a world beater. I don't think he's a top class attack.
He's out.
Is he hurt? When did he get hurt?
Timo Werner's out for the
week. He's done. He can't make the World Cup. So
okay, even more to my point. If I had questions about, I didn't realize he was out. I saw he got injured. I didn't know he was for sure out.
He's done for the World Cup. So
all right, even more to my point. Where are those goals from the front line coming from for Germany then if he is out for the entirety of the World Cup?
Well, I mean, the
Sané.
forward line's going to be Sané, Thomas Müller, and Gnabry probably. It's going to be Bayern. They might, I guess, probably call up somebody like
I think
Florian
Kai
Wirtz, who's
Havertz
had a
might play
great
more
season.
of a
Kai Havertz could play more of a
might
striking
play more
role.
of a 9 role. Yeah,
We've
And
seen
then
him
you get-
try
you get
that
a
at
lot of
Chelsea, but it
goals.
hasn't really worked.
yeah.
This is a team though. Like I was high on the wings of Spain. This is a team I'm really high on the wings for, obviously. So if Spain is able, if I'm confident Spain can find goals from the wings, there's no reason Germany can't. But from like a true goal scoring striker, they're really. I was worried about them missing that with Werner, and if he is out the whole World Cup, then that's just as much of a concern for me on this squad as it is for Spain.
Yeah, so this is the reality where we may see someone like Adeyemi get a call up for Germany, right? So
Yeah.
we may be relying on Wirtz and Adeyemi, a 19 and 20-year-old, to create goals, which again becomes the problem, right? So
Right.
this is where I think the goalkeeping is and defense is probably the bigger difference between Spain and Germany. I think we can probably, yes, De Gea has played well, but or whoever Spain's going to use, but they're not at the level of what we're going to get from Germany. I mean, Baumann, Trapp,
Right.
Yeah.
and Neuer. This is ridiculous. This is four guys of the World Cup. I'm gonna vote-
And we are pretty sure it's going to be Neuer though. But it is nice to have that depth. But I can't imagine, as good as other options are, like you're not giving it to Neuer, right? Just
yeah, they're going
based off
to
of
give it to
experience.
Neuer, I think.
But still, that is an
Especially because
embarrassment
he
of riches.
partnered well with Sule before,
Mhm.
so I think that's gonna be what they choose. I am curious to see who they're gonna pick for like left back and right back. I mean, you have Gosens, you have Rom, you have Ginter, all have played well. Rom was amazing last year. He's not really done great this year so far with Leipzig. And I'm still forgetting ones like Henriks and Schlotterbeck probably fills into the middle, right?
Yeah,
So-
Schlotterbeck, I would guess would be in that center.
And then you still have people like Christian Gunther who could get called up. So defensively, they're solid. I think, unfortunately, right, we're not going to be seeing some of the people like, I really wanted to see Marco Reus, right? But with the injury, just looks like it's not going to happen. I think if he had been in, then putting Mueller with Gnabry and Sané wide, right, with those four as sort of a diamond would have been just a ridiculous attack for Germany and guaranteed winning the group. Or with Werner, right? But now with that gone, it becomes a question, right? And so I think that's where maybe the little bit of hope in the Japanese fans is, I don't know if it's not we're going to beat these teams, but we can get results maybe now because they're not as strong as they used to be.
Yeah, I think Germany, obviously, we've mentioned Jamal Musiala. He's contributed goals this year, so they're going to get goals from that number 10 position. It's interesting. You've got Pedri, Bellingham, and Musiala all kind of making their international coming out parties for the casual World Cup fans. I feel like this year, if you don't follow soccer closely, you might not know those wonder kids. So those will be names that people who watch the World Cup in Kansas City at the Power and Light or whatever, those big parties, the U.S. World Cup fans that just know the names that show up at the World Cup, they might be introduced to these young midfielders, and Musiala is kind of that absolutely in that conversation with 7 goals in the Bundesliga this year. I don't think he has any in the Champions League, but he's definitely capable of putting it in the back of the net, obviously. So yeah, that's Germany. Let's do it. Let's talk Japan.
And when you say let's, like you mean
Nick.
like Nick, right?
Yeah.
All right, folks.
Yeah.
So for the next 2 hours, we'll do the
Here's my dissertation on
Japan Football History Hour.
So we watched Japan obviously play the U.S. in a friendly here recently, and just absolutely took us to the woodshed. I mean, it didn't show necessarily on the scoreboard, but if you watch that game, it was impressive on Japan and pitiful on the U.S. So I'll give you that segue into talking about this Japanese national team.
that was probably one of Japan's better performances recently. One thing to note is if you are looking at the Japan squad that's been called up, you can already scratch one name off, Yuta Nakayama, who plays at Huddersfield, ruptured his Achilles, needs surgery. He's done for the entire season, not just the World Cup. So his replacement's yet to be announced, which I'll then go into. The debate is already heated because there were two major exclusions from this Japan squad. Both are at Celtic, right? We have Kyogo Furuhashi, who's been scoring goals left and right for Celtic. Some Japan fans have been saying, well, playing at the World Cup is not playing against Dundee United, which is a fair point. But if you look at the strikers who we are bringing, like Asano from Bochum, I always forget how to pronounce it, in the Bundesliga, he's scored 4 goals in the last year. Ueda, who's in Cercle Bruges, not Club Bruges, has got 5 goals from 18 appearances. And then Kyogo's got 20-something goals from 40 appearances. And it's very clear who the striker should be or who this attacker should be. Wasn't picked. Other two picked ahead of him. In fact, Daisen Maeda, who's also at Celtic, got picked ahead of him, who actually starts less games than Kyogo at Celtic. So it was sort of a head scratcher. The second one was in the midfield. We have the Swiss Army knife, Hatate, who also plays for Celtic. He can play left back. He can play CDM. He can play left mid, attacking mid. He can pretty much play all of these. He had some very nice passes against Real Madrid, and he had a couple dumb mistakes in that Champions League group, but you could probably say that for half that Celtic squad. He didn't get called up, but the fact now that Japan's lost a left back means that he's probably the good choice, I think. So that's the first thing is who's actually going to be coming in for left back, because that's going to be a critical position for Japan. And
it feels like we've said that for several teams, honestly.
Yes, and the
England's got their left back issues, and
and then the person who's currently in line to play that is Yuto Nagatomo, who you may recognize from the 2010 World Cup.
I was going to say, he's 40, right?
Yeah, he's 36, but you get the point. Right? So all of a sudden, he has played well still. So that's the thing. For the national team, he's played well. Is this a person who can do it? Now, I think the best way to talk about Japan is let's rewind, because probably the last time anybody else other than Americans watching their team decimated by the superior football nation was the previous World Cup, right? So everybody's remembering that Japan-Belgium game where Japan was too stupid to not foul on that breakaway and take the game into extra time like any smart team would have done. Let's go to the group stage. The group stage,
you're not mad about
Japan was pitiful. I don't know if you remember that horrible draw with, was it Poland, I believe, to basically qualify into the next stage, and we were getting blasted. I remember people were like, oh, this is so terrible. The English commentary was, they basically don't look like they want to win, which was true. They basically didn't want to win. They're like, let's get the draw and just get to the next round. And then all of a sudden they surprised people and attacked Belgium, right? Unfortunately, I think that was a tactically superior Japan from the coaching perspective. We are currently under Moriyasu, who you would think is great tactically from what you saw against the U.S., but has had a lot of questionable decisions.
To be fair, not to discount the performance against the U.S., it's pretty easy to look tactically superior
to Greg
Berhalter teams. Let's just throw that out there.
Man.
Not taking away anything, but Berhalter is.
So Triple G is not the tactical genius we would all like him to be. But Moriyasu is probably if Berhalter is just mind-boggling, Moriyasu is just he is white paint on the wall. He is a cinder block sitting in a factory. It is there. It could have a function. We're not quite sure. It barely moves. It doesn't really do anything, and it's very boring, right? And that's essentially what we're getting from it, right? And
Sounds familiar.
I was going to say, it sounds a lot like watching Tottenham.
Woo!
Well, and what's the shame is Japan has this wealth of attacking talent, right? We have Kubo, we have Mitoma, we have Doan, who's all of a sudden come to life in Bundesliga this year, looking really good. We have, right, Ito, who's a speedster, probably should have been sent off against the U.S. We won't talk about that one. And, of course, we have Kamada, the coolest man on the planet. You saw that
Guy's a
penalty,
G.
right? Against
Yes,
Sporting.
G.
Like, they're shooting laser beams in his face, and he just laughs and smashes it. And I was just like, the rumor is he doesn't get number 10 for Japan.
Why?
Because Adidas prefers that Minamino have it.
Hold on.
I don't care what Adidas wants.
What is Adidas dictating here?
I mean, they did give them some of the best shirts in the world.
Yeah.
So maybe the Adidas got some pull. Hey, we'll give you the good-looking ones. You saw what Nike's putting out. We'll give you nice-looking stuff if we pick your number 10.
Yeah.
So this isn't the first time it's happened, but the rumor is that Adidas is helping pick the national team.
Wow.
So you can see, for example, they're not playing Kamada, Kubo, Mitoma in a single line at the same time. They're putting in Minamino and other people, and people were baffled. And there's been recent reports that Adidas has been, right, it's coming out of Japanese newspapers. We don't know if it's fully true yet, but we're seeing these reports that Adidas has basically been saying, this is part of the deal. He's going to be called up. He's going to wear number 10. He's going to, so this is, the thing is not new. One of the previous coaches from Japan.
Let me guess. Minamino is an Adidas guy and Kamada is a Nike guy.
Bingo.
Is that like like it's a boot sponsor thing and they want to sell more shirts and they know the number 10? Like if that's real, everybody at the Japan FA or whatever it's called there needs to be removed immediately if we're letting shirt sponsors pick numbers and national team rosters, because that's disgusting. Especially like you said, it's a highly talented team for a Japan side, so we're really gonna let a shirt sponsor pick
Daichi
important
Kamada wears
things.
the Nike Phantom GT2.
Sounds about right.
That's exactly what they're saying, is that. So then people are like, well, why didn't Kubo get the number 10, right? Because he's clearly better than Minamino, right? And then they said, well, because of seniority, he deferred. So they're going to give Minamino the 10 for this World Cup. And then, but
Kubo
Kamada
gets it
should
next
have
one.
it. Kamada should be 10. You saw the
I mean, anybody, even if the only exposure you've had to him has been Champions League, like he had 4 goals, I think, in group stage. Like he is, and his presence is felt like throughout the whole game. So acting like he isn't.
He's annoying as hell too.
Oh, Spurs fans know all about annoying players. So
Yeah. Well, our annoying player's been
annoying
hurt here for a while.
because
they're dirty.
our terrorism tactics of 2 attackers don't go well. So
Nick, what is what's the fan culture like in Japan for the national team? Like, is it a big soccer country, or how would you describe it?
when I first got there in the 90s, J-League just started. There was a good fan culture, but it is a lot more bigger now. Japan does have a very good following for most of its clubs. They have, I'm not going to say, La Liga numbers, but in many cases, what we would say MLS numbers, 15, 20, 30,000 coming to matches, depending how big. Because, some of these prefectures are tiny in Japan. It'd be like, it'd literally be like putting a team out 20 miles away from Columbia, South Carolina. And that's some of the places they're playing, and they're putting 18,000 in a stadium. So it's done very well. The national team's very popular. The World Cup is the event, right? I think there's a lot of emotional history with the World Cup in Japan. I actually wrote about it on my blog not too long ago, like probably 2 or 3 articles ago. So Doha is this very interesting place for Japanese soccer fans. Our biggest tragedy happened in Doha. So 94 World Cup, we're in the qualifying. It's 1993, of course, that we're actually playing it. We are winning against Iraq in Doha 2-1. We're qualifying for our first World Cup. We're top of the group. This is back when Asia only had one group. And basically, we're in the World Cup. Iraq wins a corner in the 90th minute. They take it short, fling the ball in, header loops over the keeper, we're out. Literally top of the group to out in minutes. Well, in one play, and everybody collapses. The Japanese media call it Doha no Higeki, which means the tragedy of Doha. So it's literally like one of the seminal moments in Japanese football history is Doha no Higeki, the day we lost the world, going up to our first World Cup, which then actually sort of invigorated Japan more to invest more in getting to the World Cup. And so a lot of what you see today in terms of the talent, all of the grassroots, everything came out of that one loss, right? It was such a important moment. I think it's similar to when Germany and France had their sort of crash outs in World Cups, such as, right, when France fell apart in 2002 and then basically rebuilt their youth program when Germany did poorly and had Klinsmann rebuild their youth program. Basically, that was what Japan did, and that's where you've seen a lot of the fruition of what we have today. At the same time, then Japan goes to the Asia Cup in 2011. I was teaching at some small, tiny school called Mizzou at the time. We did not win a football game during homecoming in this city last week. We'll talk about that aftermath in a second. But, and so Japan's playing Australia. It's in Doha again. Japanese media is like, oh, here we go, round 2. How can we mess this up? They get to the final. Australia somehow doesn't score for the first 30 minutes. They just blitz us. And then somehow we manage to hold on. We get to extra time. Nagatomo, who could be in the World Cup, sends this cross into the box, and Lee Tadanari is just standing there all by himself in the box. Cross comes in. He has the time to wind up for the volley. He doesn't power it because he knows he has so much time. He just places it in the corner, does his little arrow celebration. Japan win Asia Cup. So it's mixed feelings there, right? So Doha is a very interesting place, but the national team following is very strong. Basically, anywhere they go, there will be fans there in attendance. They'll have a pretty good cheering section. They're not as loud as some of the other countries, which I wish they did a better job with it, but they're getting there, I think, in that aspect.
So in comparison, like as a American that grew up with baseball being my first
I knew this question was coming. I was going to ask the same one.
I always knew of Japan as a top 5 or 6 baseball country in the world. Professionally, arguably second. Like, massive.
Baseball Classic tells me different.
But just a massive following for baseball. And we talk about on this podcast, like the progression of soccer in the U.S. and how in a lot of aspects, I think it is on the way to passing baseball. Reed has argued in the past it may have already passed baseball. Is that a similar thing that we're seeing in Japan right now with the following, or is it not quite to that level yet?
I think the parallels are similar, but I would argue that baseball in the U.S. is still above MLS. I think.
Certainly above MLS for sure. I mean, for sure.
I guess in terms of soccer overall. So, like, if you
that's where it's tough.
You had to stack
You're talking Premier League
team,
and MLS and national team, exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess if you had to stack up the national team against any Monday night baseball game in the U.S., probably the national team will be pretty. It depends, right? But
right,
pretty competitive. in Japan, I think the national team would do better. But if it's
Okay.
the Japan series, their World Series,
Right.
that's what's gonna catch. And I'll be honest, right? J League is in a heated ending, but I saw more news about the Japan series in the newspapers than the J League coming to a conclusion this weekend. So, which also is an interesting thing, right? Because J League is just like MLS, where they're playing spring to fall. I am curious to see if that actually helps or hurts certain teams or players, right? Because maybe they've had too much load, or maybe they're coming in at the right time, and they're, in some cases, right, they're going to get a little bit more of a rest, right? These J League guys will get, after this weekend, they'll get 2 weeks extra rest,
Right.
and no injuries there. Same thing with the MLS teams that didn't make the playoffs, right? You're pretty good there. So, that is something I think is interesting to pay attention to in all of this. So, and I guess that actually impacts also the Costa Rica team as well. There's probably, 2, if I can remember, right? The 2 defenders, Oviedo and Matarrito, plays for FC Cincinnati. So I think those 2 and maybe some. No, they have it's those 2. There's somebody else at FC Cincinnati, Alan Cruz, but I don't know if he's going to get a call up either. So it just depends who they call up, right? So
Right. And I think
go ahead.
Sorry, did you have anything else on Japan before we kind of?
No, I was just going to talk about the league's ending and kind of relating it to positions. I feel like we always hear with striker, you want a striker with confidence, a striker that's hot. So I feel like with the teams that have league or players in leagues that are still going on, who's, say those strikers are scoring, they're hot, they're feeling themselves. You would want them feeling that way going into the World Cup. But say for a midfielder who just works and runs, you would want a little bit of a break there. So like for Jesus Ferreira for the United States, who we've seen pretty consistently play number 9 and had a really good MLS year, him having maybe a month or 2 off might not be as beneficial as, a Christopher Nkunku for France, who's just banging them in left and right, and he'll go in confident. I know he's not a striker, but position by position, I feel like it's different than, depending on what you want from that position, whether it's rest or confidence. So, Costa Rica.
Yeah, no, I do. I think it is a good point. We've talked so much about the negative of when this World Cup is, but I think there are definitely going to be some sides that might find a way to turn it into an advantage. But as far as Costa Rica goes, I think for most people, highly likely to finish bottom of the group. I think for your average fan outside Keylor Navas, you probably don't know a whole heck of a lot that's going on with this side. Traditionally, he has been able to put Costa Rica on his back. As you were just saying, Reed, with strikers, you kind of want somebody who's in good form, who's been playing consistently, been playing well. With Navas, he's at PSG. He's behind Donnarumma. So there is a little bit of question about that. Is that good? Because he's 36, 37. He's old, even in keeper years. Like he's just flat out old. So is it good he's getting this rest, or is he not going to be ready and in good form against 3 very formidable sides? I think is kind of the question, because for them to make even noise, I don't even want to say a run because that implies leaving the group. But if they're even going to make noise or disrupt the group at all, I think it's going to really come down to his performance, because he does have the potential to be a guy who can win you a game. Like he can have Courtois in the Champions League final kind of performance. Like he has that in him. It's just going to be, is he still have that in him at 35, 36, 37, whatever he is, when he's not been getting as much match time?
He's gonna be less informed than Turner is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He's not playing. Obviously they're training, right? And you do stay informed from training, but there is a different level of actually being there in the match playing. Let's I think Costa Rica's ideal situation is basically coming out and trying to hold people to draws and sneaking a goal in. That's basically, I think,
right,
the tactic and approach that they have to use. It's the tactic and approach they used when they were successful in previous World Cups, right? When they made the quarterfinals, right? In what year was that? Was that 2014?
I was going to say 14. That's what I was thinking as well.
My mind's tracking. I'm trying to remember 2014. Yeah, they made the quarterfinals because I was in Brazil. Yeah, they made the 20.
Yeah,
they were terrible in Russia in 2018. They were basically draw.
They were arguably I think they had one draw and 2 losses and scored like 1 goal or something like that in 2018.
The thing I really have been looking at is sort of their form in the last couple years, like in that CONCACAF Nations League. I don't know if you saw their performance there, where it was 6 matches, 1 win, and 5 draws. I think that tells you everything you need to know about Costa Rica. They're, I hate to say my favorite term, they're probably going to be yet another football terrorism squad that's going to field 5 defenders, 4 midfielders, and an attacker. And we're going to have to watch a 5-4-1 bunker against Spain, Germany, and Japan, and it's going to piss us off.
So is former Arsenal great Joel Campbell still getting matches for?
Let me look. I have their list of their most recent. Oh yes, he is.
Oh no! Oh yikes!
What was he like? Did he win the FA Cup with y'all? I think that's what. What was he on? I don't know. I just thought that was funny.
He would have actually won nothing. No. He won the Community Shield with us.
Okay, that might be what it is.
Reed's favorite trophy.
Yeah, buddy. Darwin Nunez will always have that Community Shield.
Nothing like ripping your shirt off after scoring a goal in the Community Shield.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
I'd take a Community Shield.
Yeah, I'm sure either of us would take any.
But that would require us winning something the previous year to get to and play for the Community Shield.
Anyways, for Costa Rica, with that being their play style, and I think on all 3 teams, we kind of mentioned question marks around goal scoring for different reasons on each of the 3 teams. But do we think that makes Costa Rica more formidable in this group because of what their goal will be to minimize total goals in a game, and they're going up against sides who are question marks? All 3 of us consensus on those teams was kind of where are their goals going to come from consistently. I personally don't think that means that they have enough of a chance to make noise, but does anybody else feel differently because of the tactics and game plan that they're going into it with?
I think Costa Rica, and I actually have the squad list, that the call-up squad, and Joel Campbell is on this call-up, so he is coming to the World Cup. So here we go, exciting times. I think the goals. I mean, look at his track record. 25 goals for 118 matches is not exactly ideal for a national team forward, but I get it for what they have. It's probably great. Right. Really, I think it comes down to a couple of the key players like Celso Borges and Brian Ruiz and Johan Venegas. I think they all play for the same squad, right? You may remember Brian Ruiz. He played for like Fulham.
Yeah, and, 15 years ago, right? How old is he?
He's like 37. Yeah, it says here he's 37.
Oh no!
Celso.
Way to go, Dylan! Nice memory there.
Celso played for one of my favorite named teams, Deportiva La Coruña, when they were actually in La Liga. He's mid-30s. And Johan Venegas.
Yeah, that's not even a name I know. I got nothing on him.
Johan Venegas played in MLS for several years and scored like 4 goals after like 4 years as a forward.
So the whole group, we have questions about goal scoring. And Costa Rica.
Okay, I want to put on record, I don't have questions about Germany's goal scoring at all. I just don't think it's going to come from the number 9 position.
That's fair. And we've seen, like you mentioned on Germany, like there's a lot of Bayern parallels, and there always will be with the German side. And Bayern lost one of the top 3 goal scorers, arguably, in the world this summer, and they're still banging home goals with regularity.
They're doing
in
fine.
Bundesliga and Champions League. So, yeah, if there is a side that can score without a true like goal-scoring striker, I would put my money on Bayern in international shirts for sure.
Yeah, I think Spain will just be too technical. I think they'll be able to break down Costa Rica and find at least 2 goals probably. One thing that is interesting, and while we have Nick on, I'd like to ask him because he probably knows more. Do you think there's a very clear advantage? So, like you mentioned, Costa Rica, they have these 4 guys who play on the same club team. So they know they're able to communicate with each other, and they kind of know how to work with each other. Do you think that brings a really, really significant advantage when it comes to playing on the national team?
I think it brings some, but I think it comes to when you can meld, because you can't just rely on a single club, right? Spain's biggest problem was they had these Barca guys and they had these Real Madrid guys who both gelled very well within themselves, but it was only when they all gelled together that the team became the true Spain team that we saw that won the World Cup.
Yeah.
I think Japan, or actually let's use Germany. I think Germany is the best example. All these Bayern guys can gel well together. So the question becomes, is this really a Julian Nagelsmann World Cup team, right? Or is this a Joachim Löw World Cup team, right? And how are they going to play? And, who's really going to go out there and start and really lead the teams? I mean, the more I look at it, Germany really will be Bayern-centric, right? I think through the middle. Sule, okay, he's with Dortmund now, but he was with Bayern last year, right? So let's just say you went Neuer, Sule, they'll partner him with somebody else, maybe Rudiger, maybe Klostermann, maybe any number of people. We'll have Rom, I'm guessing at left back. I'm not sure who's going to be right back. Midfield, they're going to, Kimmich, Goretzka. I don't know if Goretzka is going to actually be in. Musiala, right? But then when you start to get to the attack, it's literally going to be Gnabry, Sané, Mueller, right? So you're looking at probably at least 5, if not 6 or 7 Bayern players getting a start for Germany. So then it becomes, okay, they know each other well enough. Is it an advantage? It could be. But then if they're also sort of like dependent, like, oh, that ball, I don't need to cover it. Kimmich has got that. Or Kimmich is sitting on the bench, right? Yeah. And you're like, oh, that person didn't cover that, right? So there is that place for mental gaps. So it is, I think it's both ways. It can be good and it can be bad. I think they also, you do need some level of competition within the national team. If somebody is pretty much the outright, this is my spot, I think that's also dangerous, because then it becomes a case where, one, the coach feels like they have to play them, even if their form's not good. Cristiano Ronaldo.
Harry Maguire.
Harry Maguire.
Right. And then second is, if there's no one to challenge them who's actually good enough to challenge them, you're literally coming down to reliance on a single person. And let's be honest, when Portugal was good, it really wasn't because Cristiano Ronaldo was good. It's because they put the whole package together. So at the end of the day, right, I think you have to put together a squad, which is where Costa Rica does have that ability to be dangerous, because they are a squad in that essence. So the question is, how much of a squad will Japan, Germany, and Spain be? And then I think defensively, this group looks pretty good. It really comes down to who can get goals, and that'll be the key. Who can break down the other? Will it be individual moments? Will it be tactics? Will it be something strategic? Or will we be stuck with a lot of 0-0, 1-1 matches, and that this comes down to the last day, which is a possibility, especially when you look at how it lines up. Because Spain, Germany play each other on the second match day. which means there's a very realistic chance that, say, Japan, Germany, and Spain could all be in on the last day with one win.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
say Germany and
Who
Spain
gets Costa
draw
Rica on
and-
that last day?
Right. And so that last day, Germany gets Costa Rica and Japan gets Spain. So like as the Japan fan, it's like we have to come out first game and do something against Germany.
This is actually just furthering the fact that I'm honestly going to do this right now. I need to bet on Germany to win this group because there's a
Here
very
you go,
good chance.
bringing up the app.
There's a very good chance Japan could draw Spain. Like I could see that happening. So if it's really coming down to it's just another reason that I think that things are in Germany's favor in this group in a lot of aspects. I think they in a group that could be lacking goal scoring. I think we all kind of agreed and said they have the most reliable goal scoring coming from multiple areas, the most proven goal scoring coming from multiple areas, and they have a more favorable draw, I would say, getting Costa Rica on that last day.
Yeah. Now, I guess the one question is Japan's actually pretty familiar with the stadium. They'll be playing Germany and Spain in the stadium that they won Asia Cup in. So they have a history of winning in the stadium. So, maybe, but it really doesn't matter because the only person who's been around back then is Nagatomo.
Good old Intergrate. That's why that one still rings a bell for me.
Oh my gosh. Can't
He was
believe
there for a while.
He's still. Oh, he did well there. I just
Yeah.
can't believe he's still in that squad. So, I may miss the final group stage day.
That's tough.
Ooh.
I'm flying to Korea actually, so I don't know what day yet. But the fun part
Speaking
is,
of Korea, it looks like Son will be healthy for the World Cup, so that's good.
Oh,
for
that's
Korea.
good for them.
Huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
They can miss a couple Premier League weeks. That's not a problem.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
got
would
cool.
not
We got
mind
cool.
that at all.
Got Kulusevski
We're
back
nipping
this
at their
weekend,
heels.
So
Is he officially back? I saw he
Yeah,
was
he's
training, but that sucks. I could have gone without that until after the World Cup. That would have been awesome.
yeah, who knows what's going to happen with Liverpool and Spurs this weekend? It's like the flip a coin week. Which team are you going to get?
Can
well,
you,
know which,
I put
tomorrow morning, do you want to mute my tweets? Because I'm going to tweet out a pick you're not going to be a fan of.
Oh, I already predicted for my post. I posted those predictions. Like I usually pick a few big games. I chose Atlanta Napoli because that's going to be the Serie A decider. Yeah. That's the match to watch on Saturday. Is Napoli versus Atlanta. 1 versus 2, 5 points between them already. If Napoli wins, I think it's over.
It's over.
And I'll be honest,
call it in November.
It is over. Napoli is going to go out. I think Atalanta will get a goal, but I put 3-1. Oops, sorry, my email's open. I should have had that close.
Are you on Spurs as well this weekend though?
I predicted then the Arsenal Chelsea, which I hate to predict my own team. I predicted Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1, just because I think Arteta knows
at Stamford, right?
Yeah, but I think Arteta knows
Not that
that
that's
Potter's been really trash and not knowing what to do in the first half. And so he's going to go full out and try to get.
What do you
that
know?
That also sounds familiar to read.
He's going to try to get as many goals in the first half. But Arsenal also has a problem with the clean sheets, which is why I gave Chelsea that goal. So I think it's going to be 2-1. But Arsenal could lose this match, right? It's very well that if the right thing happened, right? As for Spurs, you're not going to like this, but I think, right, because Son is out, right?
He is, yeah.
So it's Harry Kane and Lucas Moura, or Harry Kane and Brian
Dejan
Gill?
Kulusevski.
Kulusevski's back.
Oh,
Yeah.
so he did meet fitness?
He did, yeah.
Okay, so
and Fabrizio Romano tweeted it out too. So it's out from multiple sources.
okay, so he's healthy enough, but is he in form right now? Is my question.
I don't know, but he's better than Lucas Moura, whether he's on form or off form. So I'll take it.
I don't get your hate for 90 minutes Moura, man.
Because Lucas Moura's first touch is like taking a sledgehammer to a watermelon. It just never like. I mean it. Thank you for Amsterdam, but you can be done at Tottenham now.
Yeah, so I honestly think that you guys are going to go a little bit bunker again, a little bit, this defensive style that Conte loves, that 4 to 5 defenders and putting a good wall of midfielders and having Perisic and Højbjerg basically create and hope that service gets to Harry Kane, basically. That seems to be a lot of what's happening. I think Klopp is going to press that hard. And I think if Salah is in good form, I think it could get dangerous until Darwin Nunez gets sent off for headbutting somebody.
Man, I'm not a Nunez guy, but people are. I mean, that individual instance was stupid, but I think people are a little hard on the guy.
Did you see the clip?
He's getting into positions, is what I've been saying. He's getting into the right position.
Isn't that 75% of what he's paid to do? And the other 25.
I'd say like 50% of what
he wasn't. He wasn't bought to be a creator.
Yeah,
like he wasn't. He was bought to be a guy to do exactly what he's done. What does he have? How many goals does he have this year? I'm guessing like 8. No, 6 probably between all competitions because he was hurt. Yeah, I would guess like 6 or 7 because he was hurt for a little while.
I'm going to say 5.
Hang on, I'm pulling up Transfer Market. 2022-23 stats. Darwin Nunez has 7 goals if you count the Community Shield.
No, we're not. If you're Darwin Nunez.
No, we are not.
If it was big enough to rip your shirt off to celebrate, you can't not count it, right?
Well, that cemented the moment where he was the best striker in the
Premier League,
better than Haaland by miles. Now,
anyways, guys,
before this turned into a Premier League.
Thanks for watching our Group E preview. We're gonna do Group F here. I don't know when, but Japan top in the group. I think we're consensus on that.
For sure, yeah. Go get your bets in on Germany to win the group now before it's too late, because I think after this drops, the books are going to see a huge push from all of our listeners.
Agreed.
Betting Germany to win the group with our great insight.
I'm gonna.
Y'all have a great night. Go ahead, Nick. You got anything else?
I'm gonna buy in and get in on Germany. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, we're all in on Germany, and then Japan second, I guess. So appreciate you guys. Nick, thanks for coming on, and y'all have a great night.
Thanks.
Peace.